to us about ZB Molefe, we also got news of the passing of Herbert Mabuza. What are your thoughts at this moment?
Yeah, they say it never rains but pours, eh? You know, it's amazing how some of these good journalists just follow each other, shortly after another.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. We just buried Bongani Mnguni not so long ago. I mean, I think a week or so ago. Also a very good award-winning journalist,
yeah.
A photojournalist. And Herbert, by the way, very, very talented person, recognized all over because of his work. And he's done exceptionally well. In fact, I'm actually shocked that Herbert could die so soon.
So young.
So young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was still in his 50s.
Absolutely.
I was actually looking at some of the greats who've passed away, who come from that generation, whose journalism was not necessarily about what we call today content producers who respond to immediacy. They were rich in content and responding to the issues of the day. Your Bongani Kesos, your agri-clusters, your Amrit Mangas.
Yes.
Take us through that time, through the journalism of that time, and what drove the need to write.
Yeah, wow. I tell you, all the people that you've quoted so far, I mean, you would not call them journalists per se. I would call them writers,
yeah.
of note. People who write about something out of nothing, but with content. You know, a thriller. Something that I mean, we'll be talking about ZB very shortly, but somebody who'd go and watch a play. I remember many moons ago we went to watch Sizwe Banzi's Dead. All of us, we were all there. And when we came out of the show, we were all eating out of ZB. I mean, the way we were all there, we watched it.
There was his area, entertainment.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but the manner in which he sees things, he sees them differently. So he puts it into context, you know, and that's separating what I'd call men from women, separate men from boys, he's separating journalists from reporters, separating everybody. He stands alone.
Speaking about that, he wrote a book in recognizing women in the music industry, where he spoke about their contribution. What for you is ZB Molefe's legacy for journalism?
Oh, you know, actually the very first day I heard about ZB's passing on, I said to me, only one person can pay tribute to ZB.
Oh, wow.
And it's ZB himself.
Okay.
Now, how do you write your own tribute?
Yeah.
Because he's the only one who understood. He was a wordsmith, He could play around with words. He could make you. I mean, like when he writes about women in general, we used to call him Zuluboy because, you know, Zuluboy are people who are still belong to the old traditional way of doing things. I'm a Zulu man. And women's places in the kitchen, but not ZB.
And yet he was so progressive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not so ZB. I mean, he was so progressive, it was not funny. In fact, he would argue the women's emancipation much, much stronger than the women themselves. That's the nature of the men.
Last year, one of your other colleagues, Len Kalani, released a book, the chapter we wrote about the story of City Press and how it started in the 1950s. And it takes you back to that particular era of these genre of journalists, this cohort who came together to try and use the pen to tell the story of the day. How does a book like that, how our viewers watching now and thinking we need to know more about these people, how does a book like that contribute to this narrative, and what more should be written about people like ZB?
You know, the relevance of that book and the relevance of the people that Len writes about there, you have to be there to understand, because I came from the start, shiny floors, wearing a suit and a tie every day and go by the script, good morning, good afternoon, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Chalk and cheese when I moved on to City Press in 1983.
Oh, wow.
Chalk and cheese. I mean, there it was, irrespective of how you are dressed, it's how the content.
Let's get the story.
Get the story. Please put it out there for the people to go and read it. And it changes the mindset. It makes you commit to the kind of work. You're not just doing it to please the news editor and whatever it makes changes, it doesn't matter. There you make sure that once you have written, you follow it right until publication, so that even if it changes one word,
yeah,
you say, give me an explanation. Why did you change the word? Why do you put it this word instead of that word? Because that's the word that I put in. So that on its own made us understand how to work for City Press, for a newspaper that was no budget at all. I mean,
compared to where you came from
the shiny floors and chauffeur driving and whatever. I used to drive myself at City Press, go for stories on your own, and I mean, the place was like a pigsty, man. I mean, it was a hovel, but what came out of that hovel was something to cherish.
There's a temptation to think that the stories of that era were only about the emancipation of black people. But there were also other publications like Drum, which focused, like ZB did, much on entertainment. What were the other stories of that era?
You know, talking about Drum publication, because we're all in one place, by the way, and ZB would have a lot of conversation with the late Stan Muchwari, another creative writer. I mean, people will write about jazz as if it's easy. I mean, we
were actually talking to his grandchild the other day.
I mean, jazz. I mean, I remember walking into his office one day, and he had a big picture of Wynton Marsalis.
Yeah.
And I said, ZB, do you dig this dude, man? He says, hey, you have to understand his father, his brothers. It's a whole family. And when he talks, you could see he's talking with the passion. It's like this is his family.
Yeah.
I mean, he is not writing about people. He's writing about people that he relates to. So you could understand why ZB could write about jazz and understand what he's writing about. I mean, I remember a piece he wrote about Miles Davis. It was an amazing piece, amazing piece. And I said, ZB, did you know Miles? He says, no, I didn't know him. But I used to listen to him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but the way he wrote about the man, you could see that he was related to him. So that was ZB, an amazing writer.
So the biggest, one of the big issues in newsrooms now is media freedom, compared to the times that when you were plying your trade. You've had the benefit of watching the transformation of the country. What are the biggest changes for you, and do you feel that there's sufficient media freedom in South Africa?
Whew. I think one has cut across so many stages in life. I mean, when I joined the media industry, I joined in 1974 at the Rand Daily Mail. Completely different with time. And one can actually see what's going on now. I mean, what do you call this media of yours, man? Where
social media.
Social media,
yeah.
For instance. I mean, I'm still finding it difficult to understand social media.
I tried to look for you on Twitter and I couldn't find you.
I still find it very difficult.
Yeah.
And people are trending, and people...
But what about the issues? I mean, journalists from Sunday Times have been blamed for taking on stories that are not necessarily real, and there are conversations about whether those stories, including the SARS rogue unit, what issues are you engaging with?
You see, I think that's a very, very good question you're asking, because I think we were trained, and listen, I'm not discarding what these newly trained journalists are today, but we're trained to make it right the first time. You investigate, please, it must be no comeback. Investigate, get the truth first. Everything must be in order. Bang, 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 bang. Don't rush into publication. You publish only when you know that every corner has been closed.
Yeah.
and you publish.
Even with the deadline newspaper
Even with
like
the
the
deadline,
Star, which is
just
a daily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these days, what you notice is that a story is not even complete, and it already gets published, and there's a rebuttal shortly thereafter, or there is a legal suing pending and what have you. But the story is out there, and so I belong to a different era.
What would you say to the journalist of today about sticking to the proper principles of journalism?
Get it right the first time. Get it right before you rush to publication. Get it right.
Yeah.
Get everything correct. I remember I used to say before, once you've got it right, then publish and be damned. Once you've got it right.
Stand by it.
Stand by it.
Yeah.
Because you know every corner has been closed. So publish and be damned.
So
and
a person watching us now and thinking, how should they remember ZB?
What a perfect gentleman. There are not too many people who are like ZB. That is why I said only ZB could write his own obituary. Perfect man, very, very quiet to himself, but quality person. Team player, not an individualistic. ZB will be remembered for many, many, many things in life. May his soul rest in peace.
Yeah, absolutely. And also Herbert, that we were talking about earlier, we don't have much information on the details of his burial. But we were talking earlier about Len Kalani's book, the chapter we wrote. What sort of reading should the public be engaging with to find out about this profession and the people who have made it what it is thus far?
I think reading that book, especially for a non-journalist or one who aspires to be one, it gives an inspiration to, here's a profession that when you feel committed to it, you can benefit out of it.
Okay.
In fact, it's selflessness. Go in there, don't look for thrills and frills and all the goodies. Don't be a diva. Don't be somebody who's, what do you call these people, the Beyoncés of this world?
The slave queens.
The slave queens. Go in there, write and enjoy your writing.
Yeah.
And I think reading that book, a lot of people will learn that it's easier and much easier actually to be yourself and write and be happy.
I said in my introduction that we invited you in because you happen to work with and interact with these journalism greats. But you've also totally excelled in another sector, which is soccer, the chairperson of Supersport United FC. What are your thoughts about sports? You know, we were asking our viewers yesterday their thoughts about developments at the weekend, Bafana losing to Botswana. What are your thoughts about sports and sports development in South Africa?
You know, I think, in my understanding, I think almost all South Africans, all of them, even if they didn't play the game, but they follow the game. Whether it be sports, be it football, be it any other
rugby,
sport.
Cricket.
Rugby, cricket.
Yes.
South Africans are just sports-loving people. I think it's just natural for us to do that. Sadly, it's devastating what we produce, man. I mean, really, to lose to Bangladesh. Come on, man. To lose to... I'm sorry,
but you're at
Botswana.
the vantage point where you administer these processes.
Yeah.
What's missing?
I think we should go back to basics. I think we should really go back to school sports. I still believe school sports is where it starts. Catch them young, groom them. By the time they reach the teenage stages, they are ready to move into the professional ranks. But we have neglected school sports, quite frankly. If you remember during our days, every Wednesday in Soweto, there'll always be basketball there, netball.
What was it about the water in Soweto, though, that all these grades came out from Soweto?
I know. I mean, something about Soweto. I mean, every Wednesday, there will be something. I mean, I remember I was at Pefeni. I used to play at Pefeni. The trains will stop. I mean, people stop there and watch us play football.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
For free.
For free. and that's where some of us were spotted for us to play professional. We were spotted from school. I mean, we didn't just come out and be spotted from school. There were scouts, people who say, hey, ek het jou brains gesien daar, so hey, yeah. Capture him.
What are your thoughts about how soccer has moved to that area where there's a need to talk about money? The payment of players, the keeping up to standard of soccer facilities. Has this muddled up the conversation and, as a result, the talent as well?
You know, Desiree, my take is, first and foremost, do the right thing. Be perfect. Before you even think about money, money follows. You can't think about money before you actually harness the talent, the skills. Be good at what you're doing. Then the rest you negotiate for money. You can't say, I want money first. Before you can even attract 5-10 people to come and watch you. I mean, for crying out loud.
Absolutely.
So please harness your skills, work hard on it, be good, behave, look good. And people will follow you. People will follow Cristiano Ronaldo. They follow Messi. They go all over the world to go and watch these players.
Because of their excellence.
Because of their excellence.
Yeah. The country has a new president. I know that's not your area, but what are your thoughts about how the country is progressing as a leader in society? But also there's a new minister of sports. What would you advise, what advice would you give him if you were given the opportunity to do so?
You know, as I said earlier on, sports is the beginning of unifying the country. I mean, I remember Nelson Mandela, great Nelson Mandela said, sports, it's where it starts. So if you have a minister who gets committed to every sporting code and work very seriously on it, I'm going to give you an example. In Australia, small country as it is, people rally around because of sports. They have the best cricket in the world. They have swimming, athletics, you name it. And rugby, because of all of those things, Australia is recognized in the world and people take off their head for it. New Zealand, for instance, small stripping country, but because of their sporting code. We are a big country. We have money. Let's work on it.
Yeah.
And I believe our new president, because he's also a sporting man, by the way.
He makes us walk in the morning.
He makes us walk in the morning. I like him for that. I think he's going to infuse that kind of that comradeship, that fighting spirit of being a winning nation.
Yeah.
I think we really have to be going back to being the winning nation. We really have to go back there.
It's really been awesome talking to you and in remembering Zuluboy Molefe, and his funeral is at the weekend, and because so many funerals and deaths are happening, there's a culture to be covering deaths and without talking content. Not just about ZB, it's about ZB, it's about Herbert, it's about other people who are contributing to society. How should we be remembering these people who have built legacies around the path of building this country called South Africa?
I'm actually glad you're raising that because we tend to go and bury somebody and we wash our hands, we eat, and we continue with our lives. We forget that those people that went to bury left a legacy. I think it is important for us to maintain and keep those dreams alive. That's ZB, that's that which ZB has contributed. Keep it alive. I think it is very important for us to do that. Yes, people come and go in life, but the legacy must always remain. So we must keep it alive. People cannot just come and go and we forget that they made and left a mark in this country.
As an individual or as a football club or as a philanthropy organization, what is Khulu Sibiya doing these days?
He's a man of leisure.
Oh my gosh, how we would all love to do that.
I'm doing all sorts of things. It's you can't just sit back now and say all is well and relax.
Yeah.
In fact, this is the time to be catching up with
To roll up our sleeves.
To roll up our sleeves and
Yeah.
catch up and do the things that one missed out from doing. Oh yes, I'm a very busy man. I'm actually glad you mentioned philanthropic thing. That's one of the things that I'm doing quietly.
We want to know about it.
No. People should not know about it, but all those kind of things will come out with time. But quite a number of things that I'm doing.
Working on.
Okay.
That is a kishi
Nyapega, with the disadvantaged community, young. You know, it's sad what you see out there, especially now that it's winter, to see children sleeping in the cold.
Yes.
It's very, very sad. Those are some of the things that are passionate with me. I go out there quietly, make sure that these people are sheltered and they have warmth. I do that.
Well, we're going to have to thank you for the time. We're talking about ZB Molefe, who passed away on Friday, the 31st of May, and will be buried this Friday, the 7th of June. The funeral service will be in Soweto and burial at Westpac Cemetery. When we have information about the burial of Herbert Mabuza, we'll make that available. Let's now just thank Khulu Sibiya for coming through to talk to us.
Thank you
Thanks
very
once
much.
again. Let's take a break.